I'm Adam, and this is a video about our 2011 BMW X3 28i xDrive. Today I'll be doing a little walk around of the outside and interior styling of this BMW X3, and I'll go over just a few of the details here that you can find in the cabin, as well as the infotainment system and usability. Don't forget to stop back in on Thursday when Brenna will be doing a test drive of this vehicle. As we move around the outside of this X3, you'll notice a couple classic BMW touches. So we have the double kidney grille, which is a staple in every BMW. And then we have things like these nice 5-spoke alloy wheels. You'll notice the xDrive 28i badging on the side there as well. xDrive just means that this is an all-wheel drive BMW. That's just the name of their all-wheel drive system. And then as we move around the back here, you will notice classic BMW design. This exterior color is called vermilion red. This BMW really is, I don't want to say it's retro styling, but it is kind of the classic BMW design that we've come to expect from their SUVs. This X3 also features a 6-cylinder 3.0 liter engine, so that's going to give you great responsiveness and power when you need to go. Alright, we're going to move here to the interior, where I'm going to point out a few design features and the infotainment system for you guys, starting with a viewpoint from the driver's seat. I want to let you guys kind of get a feel for the layout, and then we'll dive into each part in more detail. The first thing we'll take notice of here is the steering wheel. So the first thing that I actually picked up on when I grabbed the steering wheel was this is a pretty skinny steering wheel. Nowadays we see a lot thicker wheels due in part to heating capabilities as well as sensors for driving safety systems and such. So this is a much thinner wheel. It just kind of brings an older feel about it. As well, these buttons on the steering wheel, these do not look very updated. Personally, they look like I've seen them in a million BMWs in any year that these would be the buttons. So it's just okay for me. It does have the radio controls as well as the cruise controls on the steering wheel. So having that capability alone does make it a touch above the rest that simply don't have it. Furthermore, we'll look at the stalks on either side of the wheel. To the right, we have the windshield wiper stalk. This has some kind of crazy looking symbols on it. If I didn't have a lot of experience with different vehicles and automatic wipers, rain sensing wipers especially, this would be a pretty confusing stalk. Nowadays, most vehicles actually have the word printed on the stalk. This one just uses a series of different symbols. So that's for sure a bit of a learning curve, but nonetheless, it does have rain sensing wipers. Now moving over to the left here, it's our turn signal and brights stalk. Pretty standard. On the end, however, we do have a weird button, and it's titled BC. Now, most people would have no idea what that means. Frankly, I don't know what that stands for either, but I do know that that button clicks you through the driver information little screen between your gauges. So whatever BC means, it clicks you through your driver information screen. Moving over a little more here to the left, we'll notice the headlight knob. This 2011 has automatic headlights. That's pretty standard. I'm not surprised there, especially because this is a luxury model. And then we also do have the fog lights as well. So that's a nice little added feature. I always prefer vehicles that have fog lights just to give you a little more visibility when you need. Moving over here to the driver door, I do want to point a couple things out. One, this vehicle does have power folding mirrors, which is a nice touch for the year. They're not auto power folding, but you do have just a simple button that you can press and it will fold both mirrors. In addition, I will point out the color of the interior of this BMW. Very interesting. Some form of brown leather in the doors and on the seats. It looks really awesome, especially with a vermilion red exterior. I really like this color combination. Okay, moving away from the door, coming back here in the front, I do want to point out the gauges. So this BMW is super basic in its gauge design. I've seen many cars, also 2011s, not even luxury models, that have more advanced gauge looking systems than this one. Nonetheless, it has the classic double physical gauge with the needles. We have the tachometer and the speedometer. They do kind of integrate some digital design here. At the bottom, we have an efficiency display that tells us how good we're doing on miles per gallon while we drive. That is a digital display, so it's kind of interesting that they decided to use the little bit of digital touch there and stick with the classic double needle. Nonetheless, as well, how I pointed out on the turn signal stalk, we do have the small screen down here in the middle between the gauges. This changes between things like miles until empty. We have our trip computers down in there. And then we have things like our time, maybe the temperature and such. It's a small little screen, but nonetheless, it does give some helpful information. Now we're going to move here towards the center of the car, and we're going to go over the infotainment system as well as these controls, everything that you guys are going to be using on a daily basis when you're driving your BMW. So starting here with the screen up top, you will see the screen is kind of recessed. That does a few things. Mostly that keeps the sun from glaring on the screen, making it hard to see. That's the same reason that it has this little kind of awning, if you will, above it, just to keep any direct light from shining on it, because then you won't be able to see the screen. I will say BMW has kind of a confusing infotainment system to me. This is not a touch screen. You actually use these controls down here on the center console to control this screen. So this consists of a knob that rotates and also clicks forward, back, left, and right like a joystick. You can also press the knob down to make selections, and then it has this grouping of buttons both above it to switch between things like radio and map and phone, your most commonly used systems. And then on the bottom here, we have options and back just to help you get through your screen. Nonetheless, the screen kind of takes on a two-sided view. So on the right side, it usually displays the radio information, whatever station you're currently on. I imagine that side just displays whatever audio you currently have displayed. And then on the left side, you can put up the map if you want, or a few other details. It is kind of confusing at first to work between this double screen layout, but it does kind of, it is easy for you to get the hang of once you get used to using the knob for control. Moving down from that center screen, there is something that I want to point out. This roller dial here does one thing that I think is a great design. You can actually set what temperature of air you want to come out these two vents specifically. So you can roll it to hot, and if you have the heat on, it's going to blast it out there, and I don't know why anyone would ever want heat blasted on them like that. But you can also set the knob to cold, so if you do have the heat on, it simply won't direct heat out of those vents. It will only direct cold air out of those. Then moving down, we have the classic AC controls here. So we have the dual knobs to set passenger and driver temperature. We have the different air direction buttons. Below that, then we have our cup holders. These are fine, except for if you get into any big drinks, or maybe a 44-ounce soda or so, you do have the option of it hitting off the dashboard, which is never fun, but it is out of the way of your arm, which is a pet peeve of mine when vehicles put cup holders right in front of the armrest, and then you have to move your arm because your cup's too tall. So this kind of takes care of that. And then moving down, you'll see the classic BMW Gear Selector. This thing can be daunting for a lot of people, but I promise you it's a simple design. So it starts with the green P here. That means that we're in park. And when you're ready to take off, all you do is click the unlock button here on the left side and pull it down into the gear. If you pull it straight back, it's going to go right into drive. It's super easy and straightforward. And then of course, if you push the button on the top here, that is how you go back into park. You do have to use the unlock button between going to reverse and drive and such, but it goes into park quick and easy, makes simple gear changes, which is always nice. Looking up here, we also do have a giant panoramic roof. This is great, and it also opens. It does feature a power sunshade, which is nice. And one thing that I actually noticed with the power sunshade in particular is it's actually like a sturdy board. So a lot of cars nowadays that have the big sunroofs, they have the power sunshade, and it's just kind of a piece of cloth that gets stretched out over the whole opening. It's fine and it works fine, but it can look a little flimsy. This sunroof actually has, like I said, kind of just a solid shade that you would find maybe in an older car that had a manual sunroof shade. So I really like the design of that. It just kind of gives it a more sturdy look, especially when it's closed. It looks more in line with the rest of the roof. Additionally, this X3 does have a great reverse camera system. It's really helpful. It's actually a 360 camera, or you can switch it and have it just a direct rear view, but the 360 camera is awesome. Feel free to stop by and visit us here at Jack Schmitt Ford at 1820 Vandalia Street in Collinsville, or visit us online at jackschmittford.com.